Hello, my name is John from Dublin Diagnostics. Today I want to tell you some more about how to save thousands when buying a used car. In my last video I suggested that the best way to save thousands was to not spend those thousands in the first place. So this is just a little bit more on that. Now, a lot of people think that if they pay more for a car they're going to get a better car. And whereas there could be some truth in that, it's not always the case. Take for example buying from a garage. If you buy from a garage, you know you're going to pay more than you would for the same car if you were to buy it privately. So, you have to ask yourself the question, how much is this garage going to cost you for this car? What extra are you going to get in benefit from buying from a garage? Now the answer to that is nothing. Because these are the same cars that you could buy privately. Because a lot of car sales places just have a guy on the phone who buys cars off done deal from private individuals. Then they bring them back, polish them up, put them on the sales lot and charge you 20% extra for them. So, you're paying 20% because they're taking the risk of going out and wasting their time buying a car on, say for example, a site like Done Deal. Now, they're professional and they can check out the cars themselves, so it's not a big issue. If they go and look at 10 cars and only buy one, they don't really care. But let's just go back to the garage and how garages operate. So we've already said that garages are buying the exact same car that you would from Done Deal, except that they have a professional buyer who's going out and buying these cars. Okay, so let's leave that aside for a second and look at how the car garages operate. A lot of sales places buy trade-ins from main dealers. These are cars that main dealers have already rejected for whatever reason that they might have. Maybe the car's got high mileage. For whatever reason, they're not actually satisfied to sell that car out as a second-hand car from their own sales lot. So they sell it to a car sales lot. You walk into the car sales lot and they say, oh yeah, these are main dealer trade-ins. And you go, oh wait, wow, that's fantastic, But they're already rejects. You understand? It's already somebody else's reject. It's been rejected by the original owner. It's now been rejected by the main dealer. And now it's on this sales lot for you to buy. Now, what happens to the car when it comes in? Well, first of all, the valeter will have a go at it and he'll polish it all up, make it all look shiny, clean it all up. If there's any scratches and dents on it, it might go out to a panel beater and have the scratches and dents fixed up. And then it'll go into the service department where the service guy will change the oil, maybe the timing belt, and have a look over the car, a cursory look over the car. And that's it, done deal, right out onto the sales front. And that car will be sold out with a 3-month warranty. In most cases, this 3-month warranty is covered by an insurance policy that the garage have. So they've no real interest in making sure the car is actually a good car or a bad car because it's all covered by insurance. So what does that mean to you, the buyer of a car? Well, what it means is this. You may not necessarily be getting exactly what you think you're getting. For example, I did a car here last week. It's on my laptop, which is just here, and I'm reading from it, right? So this was a car that was bought in a garage. It was bought in a garage. The guy rang me up and he said, look, I've bought this car last week. He says, but I've got some warning lights coming up on the dashboard. Can you have a look at the car? He says, because I'm going to bring it back to them on Friday for the fixed days. I want you to check the car and see is there anything else wrong with it. Anyway, I thought to myself, well, I suppose it's a bit late, but better now than later. So I had a look at the car, and I'm just going to have a look at the laptop here and scroll down and have a look at some of the issues that I found with this particular car. Sold from a garage as a perfect car for lots of money, right? So I've written down here, engine performance, rough running, suspected injector fault. Okay, so the car was only running on 3 cylinders. Okay, it drove. An untrained mechanic would drive the car and probably not notice this, but it was running on 3 cylinders. Moving on down, what have we got here? Melted plastic on the top of the engine. this car had overheated at some point in time in its life, and it had overheated so badly it had melted some of the plastic on the top of the engine. Now, engines that have overheated to melt plastic, don't do well. Okay, so that engine, in my opinion, was a very, very suspect at this point in time. So, moving on down. Next thing I found faulty was the clutch. This clutch was completely wrecked. It still operated, the car would still change gear, but the clutch was absolutely finished, and this was an expensive clutch, going to cost at least €650 minimum. That would be to get it done in a private small garage, not a main dealer. So moving on down, yeah, I plugged in the diagnostics into it, and I did a systems check on the car. And part of the systems check was to check whether the fan was working on the coolant fan was working. So the coolant fan wasn't working on the systems check, which I then checked manually, and it still wasn't working. So this car was going to overheat again at some point in time. It was only waiting for a good run to overheat. So moving on down. Right, the front driver's side wheel was buckled. A big ding in an alloy wheel. Very difficult to repair. Would cause a wheel wobble at high speed. Also, the airbag light was on. Now, what that means is the airbags are not working. So if that car was involved in an accident, the airbags would not deploy. This would be an NCT failure, and indeed, if in the unlikely event of an accident, and it would be unlikely, the airbags wouldn't work. Again, this is a car that's come straight out of a very large used car lot. Okay, going on down. Right, okay, so I checked up what was actually wrong with the airbags, and it said the driver's pre-tensioner wasn't working. Now, that should have been perfectly obvious to anybody who'd inspected this car beforehand, but they didn't see it, didn't care, or whatever. Brakes, yeah, the brakes worked okay. Right, okay. The next problem I found was we're looking at suspension. And this car had done so many miles that the two front springs were strained, and there was only a 3-inch gap between the bottom of the car and the road. This meant that the two front springs were strained. Right. Again, not a great sign on a car. Okay, let's see what else we found wrong with it. Well, the air conditioning didn't work. Okay, here's another one. Worn bushes in the driver's side wheel. The front driver's side wheel was literally hanging off this car. The bushes were that worn, they were hanging off. So again, like this car, nobody did a pre-delivery check on this particular car. So, as you can see, this particular garage didn't care what kind of car they were selling out. And unfortunately, this is the third car from this garage that I failed so miserably. The other car I failed had the valves bent in the engine, and I told him. And the salesman said, "Oh, I'll give the customer back his money and I'll sell it to somebody else." So that car with bent valves went out to somebody else. Another car from the same garage was a BMW, which had 100,000 on the clock. And it turned out that the car was clocked and actually had 300,000 on it. That's all from the same car garage, same car sales garage. So just because you're paying out a fortune for a car from a car sales garage doesn't mean that you're gonna get a perfect car. Some garages do not care what they sell. They do not care whether the warranty work has to be done. By and large, the insurance company doesn't care, because if they're selling 20 cars a week and they're getting an income from 20 cars, they don't care whether one or two of those cars fail. They're not going to upset the status quo. They're getting plenty of money anyway. So if you say average out, say €250 for an insurance policy, if they do 10 a week, that's $2,500 a week the insurance company is getting. It's huge money. They don't care whether one or two cars fail. But you, as a buyer of cars, would care. You have to bring the car back, you've got to do this, that and the other. And that's if they entertain you at all. And that doesn't always happen either. You might have a court case, whatever. Maybe you took that same car out and had an accident in it with no airbags working. You don't know what you're getting. You're far better off to get a mechanic to check the car, even if you're buying from a garage. Anyway, that's one way to save money. And that is to don't waste it at all on going to a garage and paying extra for a car and thinking you're getting a better buy. Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll put some more videos on soon.